I'm going to explain to you the best plants in Grow a Garden. So if you want to make money or if you just want convenience, there's kind of pros and cons with each plant. So like the beanstalk's really good, for example. But I kind of prefer the cacao tree over there in the back left even more, even though it makes less money per fruit. Because I have to climb the tree when I go try to get the beanstalks, and it's really annoying. Some beanstalks are actually unclimbable without bamboo. So there's a whole bunch of details as to what makes a plant actually good or bad in a practical way. So first we have carrots. These are pretty bad. They grow fast. They're not worth anything. You're only going to use these in the beginning of the game so you can get more money. Then there's strawberries. These are actually insanely good if you're new to the game. You can plant a giant wad of strawberries in a big cluster and then just stand on top of them holding the collect button, and you'll be able to collect strawberries and sell them, collect them, sell them. It's the best way to get out of the early game. Then we have the orange tulip. This is insanely good. Okay, if when you're in the mid game, this thing is crazy. This along with bamboo, but this one, you can plant a ton of them in a cluster, and then when they get hit by a meteor, instead of being worth like 600-ish each, they'll all be worth like hundreds of thousands. So you just got to buy them whenever you see the seeds, plant a ton of them, wait for them to get hit by lightning, wait for them to get hit by a meteor or something like that, and then suddenly they're worth like 100 million or 50 million or 20 million or something like that. It'll go take you straight from the mid game to the late game in like 1 or 2 batches of just tulips. Then there's a tomato plant. These are honestly pretty terrible. There's only like one scenario to use them. It's when you're kind of early on, and you can actually plant these things extremely close to each other and make them in a really dense little section. And then if you put enough of them in one spot, and then they get hit by a meteor or by a lightning strike, then you just made like 10 million or tens of millions of shekels. But generally, it's just better fruits and crops to do that with. And then you can only have 800 crops in this game on your garden, at least right now. And so it's just going to use that amount up, and they're basically worth the same amount of strawberries. So it's just like a worse strawberry. Then we have corn, which is similar to the tomato. It takes forever to grow these things. And if you're actually playing the game, by the time they've grown, you've probably made like a few million just by getting a meteor shower or something like that. And they're worth more than tomatoes, but they're still just really bad. Like, by the time you're actually getting anywhere with them, you've moved on to better crops. I accidentally skipped over the blueberry. So blueberry is pretty awful. It's basically just an awful strawberry because you have to walk around in order to get the berries. You can't clump them on top of each other and get a bunch all at once. And they're worth basically the same as strawberries. So basically, just avoid the blueberries, go straight for strawberries. Then there's daffodils. These are amazing. The only issue is you're not going to get a lot of seeds. So with the orange tulips, they're basically the same thing as orange tulips, but they hold more money, so they sell for more when they get hit by meteor showers and things. But whenever there's seeds for them, there's only like 4 seeds at a time. Now, I always buy daffodil seeds when I see them, but you're just not going to see it nearly as many. They usually stock like 4, whereas orange tulips and bamboo stock like 20. So it's like you grab them, but you're not going to end up with many of them. But they definitely are amazing. You're just not going to get a lot of them. Then there's watermelons. These are like decent. When you make big clusters of daffodils, tulips, and bamboo, you might as well throw the watermelons as well. They take up a lot of space, but if you plant them all at the same time, they'll all grow on top of each other. They all get hit by meteors, all get hit by lightning. They're decent for getting through the mid game, and I still plant them. But they're just not that like great overall. I'd rather have more bamboo planted or something like that. The pumpkin is in the exact same situation as the watermelon. It's basically the same fruit in my mind. So just plant them with the bamboo and the daffodils in big clusters. Hope they get by meteors. You get some more money. Then there's the apples. This is like the first point in the game where you get something that you actually want to plant. Eventually, you'll want to remove all of them except for one because they're really not that great. But when you're in the mid game, they are very nice to just plant a ton of apples and then be able to just go over and grab apples. They grow clustered together. They're easy to grab. The only issue is they're not worth that much money. They're worth more than the berries and the tomatoes and things, but they're not worth a ton more. The other big thing about them is they're used for daily quests every now and then. So you definitely want to keep at least one apple tree no matter what. But yeah, in the mid game, I plant them. I grow them together and hope they get hit by meteors. Makes a bunch more money. And then in the late game, I pull them all up except for one. Then we have bamboo. This is possibly the best crop in the entire game, okay? It's one of the best plants. For making money, it's not the best, but it's actually one of like the top 5 best plants for making money. If you're in the mid game, this is your #1 go-to plant for making money because you can grow them really close together, and then they're worth a decent amount of money, like more than 4,000 each. And then you leave them, they get hit by meteors, they get hit by lightning, and then you collect them, and they could be worth millions. They're worth hundreds of thousands. Big ones are worth millions. If you get a golden one and it gets shocked or something, it could be worth like tens of millions. So they're always good. You can also find them like 10 to 20 at a time in the shop. They're just a really good plant, and you can climb them, which actually makes them necessary. I actually favorite tooled this one so I can climb up here to try to get to my one coconut tree. and so I can get to on top of my cacti as well. So like they're really good for climbing on things that are otherwise unreachable. Then we have the coconut tree. So this is one of the first late game fruits that's actually terrible. Man, look how big that guy's thing was. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's one of the first late game, mid to late game plants that's just terrible. The coconut is honestly one of the worst in the game. So like when you get to the mid game, yeah, plant them, because when they get hit by lightning, they get hit by meteor showers, they're worth money, okay? The issue is if you end up with a lot of them, which you easily can, they're not worth a whole lot of money, and they're really awful to harvest. You have to get up on top and collect, and even when you get up on top and collect, you can't really grab the whole, like, see right there, I'm holding the button, you can't grab the whole thing from the top. And then when you clump them together, the leaves are all over the place. They're different heights and things, and you just can't even collect the things. Like they're not worth that much money. So like overall, honestly, I only have one coconut tree in case it's ever needed for a video, if it's needed for a daily quest someday maybe or something, or if for some reason I need one, and I have seeds to plant more if I want. The other bad thing about coconut, they grow so slow. It might be the slowest growing plant in the entire game. You sit there watering it, it takes like, I don't know, like 10 minutes to grow or something. Then we have the cactus plant. This one's like pretty bad. It's not as bad as the coconut, but it only has a few fruits. Those few fruits are worth a lot of money each though, so if they get hit by meteors or something, it can make a lot of money. The issue is they're awful to harvest. If your cactus is big at all, you have to get bamboo and things to be able to get on top of it in order to even get the cactus. It's just like an awful one for harvesting. So like, yeah, it's all right, and I plant them, but I'm probably eventually going to remove all of them except for one just to have a cactus. I think they're not that great. Better than coconuts, in my opinion, but it's pretty bad still. It's just really inconvenient. Then we have the dragon fruit plant. Now, this one is very nice. Okay, dragon fruits, they're worth a decent amount of money. They're kind of annoying to harvest because you used to jump up and grab them in order to get them usually. But the thing is that it's like the first plant you're going to have that has a lot of fruit on it, and that has heavy fruit that you can feed your pets with. I use dragon fruit to feed pretty much all my pets. That and mangoes, which we'll talk in a second. So it's like the first good crop, good plant for taking care of pets. But then also it can be worth a lot of money. If you have dragon fruit trees, they get hit by a meteor or something, you just made like 10 million or 50 million or something like that shekels. So good money maker, good for feeding pets, and just like a good, easy to harvest plant, convenient and easy to use. Then there's the mango plant. This one is extremely good. Okay, you can never get enough of these basically. So they grow very clustered together. They're worth a lot of money. They're good for feeding pets. They're really dense, which is great because it's easy to just grab them all. So convenient, worth a lot of money, good for feeding pets. Whenever you can get them, I generally get them and I plant them. Then there's grapes. So these ones are like, they're good and bad. I'd rather have mangoes and dragon fruits, to be honest. So they're worth a lot of money, but they grow so awful and spindly that you kind of can't harvest them. Like you need bamboo to even be able to get to them, or like a beanstalk to climb to be able to get up to a lot of them. Like I literally can't even reach those ones up there. So like it's terribly inconvenient. If they grow big, you're in big trouble. Like if you get one that's like gigantic, you might as well just destroy the thing. Like it's gonna be terrible. You can never get the fruit. So if they get hit by things that are worth a lot of money, I would plant them just to make money. But then eventually, I'm like someday if I have like 700 beanstalks or 700 mangoes and I don't have room for extra plants, I would totally remove the grapes at that point. But I would plant them, and if you ever run into a crop limit problem, then I would just get rid of them. But just know they're terrible to harvest. It's just, they're good money, but awful to deal with. Then there's the mushroom, and the mushroom is insane. This is possibly one of the top 3 best plants in the entire game. Because what you can do is you can plant them, you can put down a bunch of sprinklers, you can plant a ton of them. They're worth, I think, like 150,000 or more each. And so if you get like a golden one that's gigantic, and it gets hit by a meteor, and then it gets hit by lightning, that thing's gonna be worth billions of shekels, like literal billions, maybe tens of billions potentially, depending on what you get, how big it is, and if it's rainbow or golden or whatever. So they're really rare. You're not gonna get them that often. They're one-time harvest. But what I do is when I get them, I put down a bunch of sprinklers and plant them all really close to each other under the sprinklers, hope that they grow big, hope they grow mutated, and then I don't collect them till they get hit by a meteor or lightning. And when you do that, you make hundreds of millions or even billions of shekels. So they're insanely good for making money. And on top of that, they're really like thin and dense. So it's like you can put a bunch together and not like make your garden impossible to go through, and then easy to harvest. They're just overall just convenient, good money. Everything's good about them. Then there's the pepper plant. This one for the basic plants is like top 3, okay? Because the peppers are worth like 10 to 20,000 each. If you get a giant one that's golden or something like that, it's gonna be worth a ton. It's comparable to the cacao and the beanstalk. The beanstalk's worth the most, but the thing about the pepper is super easy to harvest as long as it's a normal sized plant. They're all close to the ground. Similar problem as the grape, but the pepper, as you can see here, is a lot shorter. So you can generally reach all the peppers. Now, if you get a giant pepper plant, you are out of luck, and that's going to be terrible. But for most of the pepper plants that grow, the size is correct. You can easily grab them all. They're clumped together pretty nice, so that way if a meteor hits it or near it, or a lightning strike hits near it should electrify or make the celestial for all the peppers. So nice, dense, easy to harvest, worth a lot of money. The seeds are really rare though, but every time you get a seed, you should definitely plant a pepper. Then there's the cacao plant, the cacao tree. This thing is really good as well. So these are worth like 20,000 or something like that. Depends, 15 to 25,000, I think. So they're worth like less than the beanstalk, but they're way easier to harvest than the beanstalk. So realistically, out of the base plants, the cacao is the best in the game. All of them grow right here where it's easy to harvest. Even if you have the cacao plants clumped in a giant cluster, they're taller than the player, so you can walk under and just hold E and collect them all. So easiest to harvest. They're clumped densely, so they should easily all get hit by lightning or meteors. They're worth a ton of money. The seeds are unbelievably rare, though. But every time you get one, no matter what plant one, cacao are like basically the best normal plant in the entire game. And then there's the beanstalks, which are really good, but they're just awful to harvest. But like, if you can get them, you definitely plant them. In the long run, if you eventually have everything you ever want, you probably don't want a lot of beanstalks. As you can see, they use up a lot of space. So you can have 800 plants in this game, but if they were all beanstalks, you would not be able to fit 800 beanstalks on your garden. So you'd struggle with a lot of the plants, but peppers, grapes, and maybe even cacao, you might be able to get up to like your max plant limit eventually. But the beanstalks, I mean, you might only be able to put on like 100 or something, 50, I don't know, maybe 200 max, and you'd run out of space. But also, they're awful to harvest. Climbing them is terrible. Bamboo is ideal to climb them, but bamboo isn't even tall enough a lot of the time. And if you get a bad beanstalk, it's like borderline unclimbable if it grows a certain way. So they're worth a lot of money. Plant them because they make you money. They make a lot of money. But in the long, long run, when you have trillions of shekels, if you're still playing the game, you may eventually get rid of them. But they're definitely worth getting, but not as good as cacao, not as good as peppers, probably better than grapes. I probably put them in the base plant. They'd be third behind the cacao and the peppers. And then there's event fruits, and I'm not really going to get into those a whole lot because when you watch this video, they may not even be around anymore. There's ones that were before this that I missed. Like, for example, there was the candy blossom from a previous event. That's like one of the best in the entire game for making money and everything. The current one I made this video was the night seed packs. And in this pack, for example, you can get these different ones. They're all like decent. Like, glow shrooms are okay. They don't make that much money, but they're dense. All these are very densely packed fruits and crops. So they're all like decent. And it's just the rare ones are worth more money. Like Moonglow makes a ton of money. Moon Blossom is going to make a lot of money. Like, you obviously want to plant them when you get them. But if you're in the late game, like, I honestly should tear up my glow shroom. The only reason I leave it is because it's super dense. So it's like it's not really getting in the way of anything. So I kind of just leave them. And I might even plant more. I mean, they're worth an okay amount. But when you get to like Moonflower and above especially, it's like I would definitely leave them. You just get them, you plant them. Now, if you run into the problem and you're playing this game to where you have trillions of shekels and you're hitting 800 plant limits of only the super rare things, then you got to start picking and choosing. But until then, it's like if it's one of the good ones for an event, just plant them. They're insane. Like, they're all the event ones are almost always insane. At least they have been so far. That's subject to change in the future. Who knows? In the future, maybe they'll have an event where the plants are just terrible. But usually event plants are just crazy good. So if you get rare ones, you just plant them. They're all really, really, really good. So yeah, whenever you do watch this, it's like whatever event's going on, just go ahead and try to get those good ones. They're almost always good. But they're not going to be around forever. Like, there's ones that you guys, if you're new, like I started just like a few weeks ago and it was after an event. I'll never be able to get them now. So, you know, that's why I don't really want to talk about every single event one, but generally event ones are good when you can get them. And that pretty much covers all the plants. Hope to help you guys out. I wanted to explain to you the best and worst plants and why, so you know the reason behind it. And yeah, that was all the worst and the best plants in Grow a Garden.